Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner and I have a special guest in the corner that's returned. Would you like to unveil your secret identity to the masses?
Well, if I suppose I must, I must. I'm Rachel Robinson, at least for today,
I always
and
love to hear you do accents. I just gotta throw that out there.
they're fun to do, and they're a big part of what I do. But yeah, sometimes my regular speaking voice is a little boring, so I like to mix it up a little bit.
Well, you were the last thing we got to talk to you about was Helsing, and that had a pretty heavy accent too, which must have been
Oh,
a
it
lot
sure
of
did.
fun.
I got to be German for the duration of that, and I don't get to do that very often. So, yeah, that was a ton of fun.
But speaking about accents, obviously you were going to, mention a well-known character, I think at least by this point after 3 games, named Fang.
I think, yeah, she's, a few people have heard of her. She pops in and out from time to time. She has made her third and probably final appearance in Lightning Returns, aka Final Fantasy 13 Part 3. And it was great because in Part 2, she and Vanille were only in there for about a cool 90 seconds. But she's got a lot more to do in this one, and that was fun because I got to have a lot more sessions and I guess help save the world again. So
That's always fun. You can always put saving the world on your resume. I mean, who wouldn't hire you?
it's already on my business card, so hopefully it'll start to catch on.
I mean, for the fans out there, like, especially for me, it feels like full circle to finally be able to be like, yes, we're completing the story. Yay!
Hmm.
Because the second one was such a downer.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people said, and it was pretty darn sad. I think even though we were there so briefly, it appeared to me that we were pretty integral to the story and how Sarah was able to get back to where she needed to be. Yeah, this one is action packed, and there's a lot going on, and it's heavy on the allegories. So a lot of people will pick up on that, but it's very, very cool. They never give Fang anything different to wear, which is, a tiny bit of a bummer. I mean, as I understand it, all of Lightning's outfits have special powers, so by that token, you'd think that maybe we could have a few changes, but you have to be able to identify people more quickly, I suppose.
I guess so, but
But
if
yeah, it's really
Lightning
cool.
gets to play pretty dressed up, I think Fang should as well.
I agree. I mean, I bet she cleans up really well. I don't know if I do, but yeah, it's cool because I know that not a lot of the installments in the series got sequels, and this was exciting to be a part of not just even one game, which was cool enough, but to be part of three of them.
And the plus side is you didn't get to be like a one-off character that died and
Hmm.
you were only in one game. You got to be in all three of them and make a
Yeah,
really
and
huge
I've
impact.
had my share. I've had my share of NPCs who go bye bye really quickly. So this was a huge godsend for me to be able to do that three times in a row. Well, over the course of, gosh, when did we start? 5 years ago. So yeah, it's been a nice journey. Little sad, but we'll see. A lot of people keep saying, "Well, will there be some sort of off game with Fang and Vanille?" And I was like, "Well, you'd have to ask Square Enix that because they don't really tell us anything until they're ready to go." But that would be extremely cool.
Well, there's always things like Dissidia, which has a bunch of different Final Fantasy characters that fight each other, and Final
Hmm.
Fantasy characters also appear in Kingdom Hearts, and there's a third one on the way,
Yeah,
so you never know.
absolutely. Oh God, Kingdom Hearts would be great because I just love the idea of combining of combining Disney and Final Fantasy. There's probably a lot more similarities than even I realized. So I love that. Depending on the mashups are great.
For me, when I was in fifth grade, that was like the best thing in the world. That was like the holy grail of my childhood. Like
Hmm.
two amazing things are coming. It was like Superman and Batman. Like it
Yeah,
was.
your head kind of explodes a little bit, for sure.
So it
I
would be neat to
apologize for the
see.
noise. There's a helicopter going above,
I hope they're not
standing
chasing
outside
you.
an office building.
You didn't break an
Okay,
NDA,
good.
right?
No, no NDA is broken.
Okay, then maybe they're after somebody else. I mean, you are in Los Angeles, right?
Anything is possible. People could just swoop out of the sky. Special ops could rappel down the side of a building, and all of a sudden you're in handcuffs. But luckily, that hasn't happened to me yet.
Now, for the fans who haven't gotten a chance to finish Lightning Returns, is there anything you want to say about Fang's part in the game? Like anything that they should be excited to look out for?
Um, well, I don't want to spoil anything. Um, I mean, I think, it being it's always very funny to me that the series title is Final Fantasy because it seems like it's never final. I think this one will will be wrapped up pretty neatly. No, nothing in particular. You could probably see the way the story's going. It's it's pretty intense. Vanille's been sort of enveloped into a cult, and Fang doesn't like that one little bit. So, she's assembling the strike force to get her out. And there's a countdown. There's a countdown to the end of the world. So it's now become pretty time sensitive.
I have to say,
So that's
I'm
about what
really
I can say.
happy with what Lightning Returns did in terms of
Mhm.
like changing the gameplay so drastically. Initially, I didn't think I would like it, to be fair, because I was so used to the way the other two played. And then I got to it and I'm like, hey, this isn't so bad. I can do whatever I want. I don't feel super duper pressured on time. It's just like the right amount.
Right. No, I guess as I've heard that they've greatly improved the battle system even more, and you have a lot more leeway. It's almost like everything's articulated very carefully, and you have a lot more freedom. I haven't even had a chance to play yet, but this is what I hear.
Yeah, I haven't gotten actually that far myself. I was trying to get to where I met your character, and I got right to that point, and then we had to do the interview. So,
Yeah. Well, then you can jump right back to it.
well, it pretty much echoes actually our first interview because right before I talked to you the very first time, I literally got to Fang meeting Snow in the first Final Fantasy 13, and then we
Oh,
did the
wow.
interview.
You got farther than I did. I thought I was so good. I was like, I'm beating everybody. And then the first boss comes along and just beats the snot out of me. And that was that. So I had to have some help from there on out. But yeah, I mean, it's a long game. So I'm
Yeah,
sure it would take me way longer than most people.
I actually platinumed both the first one and the second one, which I'm not sure how privy you are to video games. It means you've gotten all the achievements or trophies or what have you. So
That makes sense.
I think in the first one it took 125 hours, and in the second it took like 90.
Oh my God.
So
That's a
yay!
long time.
Indeed it is, but it was worth it. So,
Oh, sure.
but for the fans out there, I know everyone in the IRC chat, and I know the staff is going to come after me with pitchforks if I don't mention a character you play in a game called Bravely Default, who, by the way, has a
Mhm.
beautiful character design.
Oh, yeah. And what a lot of people are saying is that it's sort of what Final Fantasy used to be, or kind of should look like. It's sort of going back to a really traditional model, I guess. But yeah, there are some incredible characters in that game.
Now, I've heard that that character is actually pretty sadistic and evil and somewhat lazy.
Yeah, she always seems to have an agenda, and it's never very nice. Yeah, she gets very put off easily. She doesn't have a lot of patience. She thinks everybody's an idiot, um, and she will really only help if it thinks it benefits her. Funny that.
Well, it kind of must be fun to play those sort of characters because you can show off your bad side and get a little steam off, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's funny. I've been playing a lot of villains as of late, and I don't know if that begins with my voice quality or if it's just that I happen to have a particular knack for evil, uh, at least vocally. But she's awful. And well, the character that I play in Tales of Zillia, not very nice either. But I get beat up by Liam O'Brien for mouthing off. So there's a balance. Although he's worse than I am in that game. So I don't know if anybody watches Kaijudo or did watch Kaijudo Rise of the Duel Masters. And then second season was actually called Clash of the Duel Masters. And I play Empress Megaria, Empress of the Dark Realm, Lord of the Dark Realm. She's horrible. Also manipulative and psychologically abusive. All that fun stuff.
Well, I believe you're
So it
also.
seems to.
Oh, I was about to say, I believe you're also an Ikitosen, and do you play a villain in that as well?
I don't. Thank goodness.
Yay!
I play Unsho Kanu or Kanu Unsho, depending on what you prefer. What's funny is that physically she does kind of resemble Fang. She just has long, long purple hair that goes down to the ground. Um, no, she's actually she's very straightforward. She's very sort of honorable. She's a rules girl. She's very traditional. But she tends to get upset easily. and apparently she's one of the better fighters. So if you do piss her off, then all bets are off. But no, she's not a villain. She has some problems later on, which put her under a psychological spell. Actually, Extreme Executor just came out last week, I think. Great Guardians was out at the end of last year, and now Extreme. I keep wanting to say Executor. Like I go for people's wills by day, and I fight evil at night. Um, and she undergoes some sort of mind change where she's under a spell and then does horrible things then, but it's not really who she is. So yes, I'm happy to say that I get to stick another non-villain in my repertoire.
Well, that's always exciting. I will say the big difference between her and Fang for me has to be the cleavage area, but hey, that's the type of
Oh,
show it is, so.
that's a generous way of putting it. Yeah, I would imagine that would get pretty distracting. I mean, it's hard to give a stump speech and have people take you seriously when mostly clothes are missing.
Yeah, I was about to
Um,
say I've seen fight scenes from that show where people's like clothes get shredded, and I can't imagine
oh,
how
yeah.
somewhat awkward that is in the booth to be like, "Oh, so I'm half naked now. Okay."
Yeah, and sometimes almost all naked, and it's really weird. I mean, forget the fact that it's completely preposterous that these battles would be taking place with the uniforms that they're in anyway. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, I don't know who's paying attention to the dialogue at this point. I mean, the show is like the fan serviceiest of all the fan service shows, but there's some cool stuff in it. And sometimes it's kind of funny, and there's some interesting themes, and there's honor and there's friendship and there's tradition and that sort of thing. But there's also a lot of nudity. Um, but she was a fun character to play. Um, she gets to say a lot of important things, I suppose. But I
Well,
just I really like the look of her too.
yeah, I have to say I really do like the design of her. Granted, I think her girls would be in a little bit of pain in real
Yeah,
life, but
I'm sitting here going, "Ow!" and I'm looking at that. I'm like, that just looks like pain all the way through. Forget forget being kicked 50 feet, but just like put a bra on. That'll help. So yeah, it's fun. It's silly and it's fun.
But have you gotten to hear any of the fan reaction for that show? I know that quite a few issues of that have gotten out at this point.
Well, it seems to be pretty polarizing. I mean, there are people who love it, and there are people who think it's completely ridiculous. I try to stay off the boards. I learned the hard way a long time ago that inevitably, first, and a lot of it tends to be extremely complimentary, and then sometimes you get somebody who's just out to be mean. And I don't really take it personally because it is what it is. But I think it's certainly different than anything else I've ever done. But I try to take it all with a grain of salt.
Well, I mean, the internet is like that. The other
Yeah.
day, because I'm a Sony fangirl, so oftentimes when I go anywhere on the internet, somebody is saying something about Microsoft that I completely disagree with, or they're saying something bad about Sony that I disagree with. So it's like,
Sure.
as a fan, I have to be like, oh, why would you say that?
No, I know.
like.
It's nice. Well, people used to yell at me for dialogue that I would say in Final Fantasy, and I was like, I didn't write that, right? That had nothing to do with that whatsoever. There's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm a voice for a character. But I think there's people who are just determined to pick things apart no matter what, and I understand. Fans are really loyal. They take these things.
It seems we might have lost our special guest here, or I've lost volume, one of the two. So we're going to take a very short break here on 91.8 The Fan. So don't go anywhere, because we're not. Hey, everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. Our special guest is still here. It just seems like, the helicopter smashed into a power line, and the power line just fell over, and she dropped her phone. That's exactly what
I
happened. I'm
I
going to go
told
with
the
that.
mothership to just wait a second. I'm a professional. I like to complete my tasks.
There you go. I knew it. I knew your skill was out of this world. Ha 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 ha. Amazing puns. Yeah, okay. Okay, you guys can kick me for that one. That was a bad one. So either way, For the fans out there that want to, catch up with what you're doing, do you have any other projects you want them to know about? It doesn't have to be video game or animation.
Well, actually, funny you should say that. I have been working on some other anime. Unfortunately, it's still too early on to start talking about it. Although in a few days I will be able to talk about at least one of them. It is mostly games still, and a lot of stuff I'm having a hard time finding. But the fans, you guys seem to be able to snap things up immediately. I was also the female veteran in the latest DLC of Defiance, which was pretty cool. I'm constantly doing DLC for Guild Wars 2, which is a lot of fun. I play Rock Sweatstone, a Char, and I'm a Skrit, and I think I'm an Orc. I also am happy as hell to say that I'm going to be in Elder Scrolls Online, which
Ooh.
officially doesn't come out until I think April 4th, although I could be wrong. But I was told that all NDAs have been lifted, so I can talk about that. I play an Argonian and an Orc and a Hagraven, maybe even a human or two. Super psyched about that because we started working on that a long time ago. Uh, what else? Oh, there came an Echo, the real-time strategy game starring Will Wheaton, which has been in development for a while. Well, that'll be out probably late this year or early next year, but I have a prominent role in that, so keep an eye out for that. And a director's cut version of Cube, Qube, in which it's just myself and one other voice in the entire thing. So that was a heavy responsibility.
Well, I'm glad
Um,
that you're keeping busy.
Me too. I like working. I like being as busy as possible. And truth to tell, some days are not as busy as others. It's a bouncy sea. But um, as long as I can stay afloat in it, I'm thrilled.
Well, for the fans out there that want to keep track of any future updates, where can they stalk you on the internet in a nice way?
They can stalk me cleanly on Twitter. My handle is at larynx LARYNX underscore links because I'm cute. Um, and the my FB page is Rachel Robinson, voice actress. Pretty straightforward. My website, although that does need updating, is rachel-robinson.com. And like that. And I'll be making some convention appearances this year. Was just in Arkansas for a weekend. I'll be in Boston at the end of May. I will be in Tampa mid-June. And obviously more announcements to that effect. I will certainly push through Twitter and Facebook and all that neat stuff.
Well, I'm glad that the fans are getting a chance to see you in person. And is there anything you want to say to them? Any words of wisdom, dating advice, predictions for the end of the world?
Oh, wow. Heavy responsibility. Words of wisdom. Have a good time all the time and always put your turn signal on. And, vet people, I guess. Blind dates are blind for a reason, so be careful. Um, and don't eat the yellow snow, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's some of the best advice we've gotten in a very long time. Thank you.
Well, good. This is like improv. I actually have to use my brain here. And I would say be nice. It's so much easier and takes so much less energy to be nice. And obviously, people are more than entitled to their opinion, but I think, intelligent and kind discourse can be had about virtually anything. And, everybody just, I'm not going to use that keep calm thing because I'm sick of it. But yeah, it will rule better over losing one's temper.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to talk with you again.
It was
And
my pleasure
hopefully,
too.
we'll see you in the future.
I sure hope so. And thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And tell everybody over there I said thank you as well.
I will. And for anybody that missed any of this interview, don't fret. You can find it on the website within the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled to 918thefan.com and your ears tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.